Today, Maddie's going to read to you when Jesus did the miracle of feeding the 5,000. Now when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a desolate place by himself. But when the crowds heard it, they followed him on foot from the towns. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Now when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place. The day is now over. Send the crowds away to go into the villages and buy food for themselves." But Jesus said, "They need not go away, for give them something to eat." They said to him, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish." And he said, "Bring them to me." Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, he looked up into heaven and said a blessing. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of leftover. And those who ate were about 5,000 men, besides women and children.
This week we're studying the miracles of Jesus, and we are going to show you a craft for feeding the 5,000. That story is written down in all of the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So you can choose which one you want to read, or you can read all 4. But we're going to talk about a craft. We're going to weave a basket and cut out our fishes and loaves for the craft. So to start with, things you're going to need. At least 2 pieces of brown construction paper, which we didn't have, and we're not going to the store to get it, but we did have an Ingles bag, so we cut out a rectangle for that. You also need about 1-inch strips of paper, a glue stick, obviously scissors, and a piece of string. I just drew up a little document here because I couldn't find something that would print off at home. You might be able to Google images and find that something that you like better. But we also took a picture of this and made a PDF, which will be on the website, and you can just print that straight off if you like those. So how we're going to start is I have taken a ruler and drawn little lines, and that just helps to keep it a little more even. If your child is very good with scissors, they may not need that help. Okay, so Sadie's going to start cutting. While she's cutting that, one tip is we're not going to cut all the way to the edge. We're going to cut to within about 1 inch and leave that, and that will help with the weaving. So while she's cutting, Maddie's going to start coloring our fishing loaves. Now that Sadie has the strips cut out, we're going to start the weaving. You'll take one of your cut strips, we're going to glue it on one side with your glue stick, and then she's going to weave it through. So you go under one, then you go over one, under one, over one. Good. What? No. All right, so just a tip, on your second strip, you go exactly opposite. So since that one was on top, we're going to flip it up, and this one glues on the bottom. And that gives us our basket weave pattern. Once you finish all your weaving, make sure that you add a little glue to each of your ends just to secure them so that they don't come undone. The next part, we have a couple different options that you can do. We are going to do the simplest one. So you're going to have a piece of yarn or string, probably about 2.5 feet long, and that's going to just be your handle for your basket. So we're gonna take our basket and we're just gonna fold it in half, and we are gonna glue the sides. Another option would be, if you have a hole punch, you can actually punch holes down the side, and you can weave the sides with your yarn. But we're not gonna do that because we don't have a hole punch here. So we're just going to glue our sides, and when we get close to the top, add a little extra glue for our string, so it's good and stuck in there. If you got hot glue, that works just as good, probably better. Okay. And you do the same thing on both sides. That's probably good, Debbie.
What's that heavy on both sides? If your thing ain't sticking together on the ends, then you might want to staple it if you have a stapler so it'll stay together.
You want to show us how?
You staple at the end of every strip so it holds the strip down too.
Let's do one where the yarn is.
And one at the end maybe.
Good. Get one where the yarn is. Yeah. Good. And there's your basket.
We're going to put 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread in our basket to represent when Jesus did the miracle of feeding the 5,000.
Now, can you take them out?
If you're going to want to staple them, they won't come back out, and you can't play with them. But if you want to play with them, don't glue them or staple them.
Perfect.
So if crafts are not your thing, we have some alternate activities as well to reinforce the story. One of those is actually baking bread. So Sadie made some blueberry mini muffins to represent the 5 loaves of bread. We also baked some zucchini bread to help represent the bread. And then Micah, of course, had the idea of taking your child fishing, where you can catch at least 2 fish, and hopefully that will multiply into your limit.